recessed meeting of the Board of Aldermen to order. Roll call, please, sir.
Alderman Borman.
Here.
Alderman Lee.
Here.
Alderman Magley.
Here.
Alderman Laura. Here. Alderman Ward.
Here.
Alderman Wilkins.
All right, we have a quorum tonight. Official business can take place. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll open the floor for comments from citizens, and seeing none, I'll close it. Unless, okay. Action agenda. It's legal is supposed to be the second reading tonight, the authorizing the mayor of Centralia to enter into a lease agreement with Cellnet Technologies. Matt has a little bit more information on that.
The lease agreement is not ready for adoption. We don't have the final approval from Cellnet that they like the very small changes we suggested, and we still don't have the locations, the exact locations for the at least not on print. I mean, maybe Scott and Mark know exactly where they're going, but Mark's shaking his head. So we don't have an exact location, so we don't have the information necessary to approve it as is tonight. So in order to make things flow better for record keeping, it would be better just to defeat it tonight and bring a new ordinance back up.
I'll make a motion that we kill this bill.
Well, we have to read it and then
We have to read it first?
read it,
Okay.
and then I'll call for the vote, and then whatever.
Making some complicated.
So, John, would you introduce this one, please, for the second reading?
For second reading? I will do that. What is the bill number, please?
2737.
2737. I move that bill number 2737 be given a second reading by title only.
Second. I have a motion and second that bill number 2737 be given a second reading by title only. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Continue, please.
A bill to create an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk of the city of Centralia, Missouri to execute a lease agreement with Cellnet Technology Incorporated of Overland, Missouri for permission to attach equipment to city of Centralia, Missouri utility poles. I move that bill number 2737 be adopted by roll call vote. Second.
I have a motion and second that bill number 2737 be adopted by a roll call vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, please.
And remember, we want to vote.
Alderman Lee.
No.
Alderman Magley.
No.
Alderman Laura.
No.
Alderman Ward.
No.
Alderman Borman.
No, I guess.
Stay, go ahead.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that in their greater wisdom, the state legislature next year is gonna make this a viewpoint anyway, and they'll tell us that we've gotta do whatever they want anyway.
Well, actually, this one is okay. maybe.
All right.
This is the gas company basically, though. So it's
Oh, okay, maybe not.
Yeah.
we still have to follow the law.
We must not have as good a lobby as some people.
I probably said it more next year.
Bill number for the next one, right? I can't read the bill number, can I?
I don't think she
Don't
is.
think so.
I don't think
I don't think she is.
Okay.
I'm all in favor of recycling, but I think that would be,
I don't think I can.
I don't think that'd be bad.
No, that's okay.
They're still making more numbers.
All right. Next is authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Net Zero Energy Power Marketing LLC of Gino Beach, Florida to sell 1.4 zonal resource credits for the period of 1 June 2015 to 31 May 2016 at the price of 1.35 kilowatt per month. This is ordinance requires 2 readings. Further discussion on this one?
Are we ready with this one?
Do you want me to discuss now or after we read it, or?
Now it's fine.
Okay. We, been through a couple different, discussions of this. Last meeting, we covered a requirement to cover a planning reserve margin with 2.2 megawatts, leaving us with 1.4 of megawatts of capacity to go to market with. We looked at a number of different options. The first option was $1 from AEP out of Columbus, and then at one point TEA was suggesting that they would offer us $1.45 or $1,450 per megawatt, and that's a per month cost. They were not able to place all of it, and so instead of selling part to them and trying to find somebody else to take the remaining, I think it was 8+ megawatts. NextEra stepped up and said they would pay us $1,350 per megawatt or $1.35 per kilowatt per month for the 12 months that in the period he described. So we will be the city of Centralia will net the city of Centralia will receive $22,680. There'll be some bills to Bob Harbor for going through all this negotiation, but it's significantly less than $22,680. So this is found money. It's a good thing. I asked the council to approve this, or the board approve this, and we'll sign the documents and get it to them tomorrow, and we'll start. I believe we'll get the agreement calls for monthly payments.
I've got a question.
Yes.
If we wanted to sell this on the spot market, could we make more money, and how much hassle would that be? I imagine it would be a lot of hassle.
Well, there's an auction for capacity, so we could do that. For us to go into the auction by ourselves, we would probably barely make it over the cost of doing all the stuff. MQA could do it, and they'd be willing to. It's a possibility, but I don't think we'd do better. I don't think we'd do significantly better. Now, may come back in June and say, guys, we could have sold that for $3, and then I'm not as smart as I thought I was, and Bob Harbor's not as smart as he thought he was, and we're still up $22,000.
And you could also come back in June and say, well, we're only gonna get 80 cents for it.
Yeah, I think there's a chances it'll be higher than lower because the need for capacity is beginning to grow. But it gets pretty complicated going into auction.
I would suspect it does.
Yeah. So I'd be uncomfortable doing that. I'm comfortable doing this.
And I think we've got other cities that are involved in this, so we probably make them a little.
Yeah, it would kind of. We might get a nasty email from Hannibal, and I would say that Bob Stevenson at Hannibal was really the one who said, "Hey, let's look and see if there's some value to this capacity that we have, particularly those of us who have the full requirements plus some of Prairie State." But this had not had value when we had the contract. When Lynn signed the contract, there was no value here. As Prairie State has started running now, it does have some value, and so we'll get a little bit of money back. It's about a third of a month's bill from Prairie State. About 12% of a monthly total energy cost per month. So it's not. It's a nice little.
All right. Alderman Lee, would you introduce this one, please? Sure.
Bill number?
2738.
I move that bill number 2738 be given its first reading by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that bill number 2738 be given its first reading by title only. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Continue, please.
A bill to create an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Authorizing and Directing the Mayor of the City of Centralia, Missouri to execute a master power purchase and sale agreement with NextEra Energy Power Marketing LLC to sell 1.4 megawatts of capacity per month owned by the City of Centralia, Missouri." I move that bill number 2738 be given its second reading by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that bill number 2738 be given its second reading by title only. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Continue, please.
Bill to create an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Authorizing and Directing the Mayor of the City of Centralia, Missouri to execute a master power purchase and sale agreement with NextEra Energy Power Marketing LLC to sell 1.4 megawatts of capacity per month owned by the city of Centralia, Missouri. I move that bill number 2738 be adopted by roll call vote.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that bill number 2738 be adopted by a roll call vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, please, Mary.
Alderman Magley.
Yes.
Alderman Walrath.
Yes.
Alderman Ward.
Yes.
Alderman Borman.
Yes.
Alderman Lee.
Yes.
All right, by your vote, bill number 2738 passes and now becomes ordinance number
2797.
79. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a supplemental agreement with the Missouri Highway Transportation Commission for Transportation Enhancement Program funds. This also is an ordinance will require 2 readings.
The first agreement we signed with MoDOT, they left out a paragraph about the Form 1273 for equal opportunity, protection of equal opportunity for the contractors. So this is basically just making sure that the federally required language is included in the agreement for the Jefferson Street sidewalk project.
Does that mean that we wouldn't have to comply if we refuse to adopt this?
I think they
Probably wouldn't get the money either.
Yes, yeah, I think that's probably the.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's not find out.
Yeah. Alderman Ward, would you introduce this one, please?
Bill number?
2739.
I move that bill number 2739 be given its first reading by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that bill number 2739 be given its first reading by title only. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Continue, please.
A bill authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a supplemental agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for Transportation Enhancement Program funds.
You read it off of the computer because it's different.
Oh,
Sorry. It's on page like 63 of the packet.
Ah.
It's on page 63 of the packet in your.
what is?
Okay, want me to read it over again?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
You read it off of the agenda, so.
It's a bill, I need a bill to create an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk of the city of Centralia, Missouri to execute a supplemental agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission accepting the terms and conditions of said transportation enhancement program funds. I move that the bill be given its second reading by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that bill number 2739 be given a second reading by title only. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Continue, please.
A bill to create an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk of the city of Centralia, Missouri to execute a supplemental agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission accepting the terms and conditions of said transportation enhancement program funds. I move that bill number 2739 be adopted by roll call vote.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that bill number 2739 be adopted by a roll call vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Walrath.
Yes.
Alderman Ward.
Yes.
Alderman Borman.
Yes.
Alderman Lee.
Yes.
Alderman Magley.
Yes.
All right, by your vote, bill number 2739 passes and now becomes ordinance number.
2798.
Thank you all very much. Are there any as may rises?
Well, I was gonna put this under as may arise under
Okay.
the regular meeting, but since we were just talking about the TAP grant, the TAP grant that we received, the RFQ is out on the street. They're due back by March 18th. We've had, I think, probably 7 different firms who express some kind of interest or another. So we should have, once we get those back, then we'll get the committee together, take a look at them, and if there's any that are just missing, that are substantially wrong, then I won't, you know, if they're missing some major part, I won't send them on. But my plan would be to send at least, we should be getting electronic copies. I should be able to send those on to you. But, so then we
When are they
can
due
send
in?
to it,
When are they due in?
March 18th.
Okay.
And Wednesday, on a separate topic, Wednesday of this week, bids on the cemetery mowing regulator. We'll have that at next meeting to approve the best. Then we have a week to write a contract.
All right.
Can't remember.
All right, thank you very much. Any other as-may rise?
That's where it usually occurs.
If y'all are wondering why the flags are at half-staff, it's the state auditor passed away on Thursday morning. So, I was just at the Capitol on Wednesday afternoon, and I didn't talk to him directly, but passed him in the hallway, and next morning I was kind of shocked to hear that he passed away. So, if no one has anything else, motion to adjourn will be in order.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion is second to adjourn. We recess meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Show is yours.
Does anybody need a break? Anyway, we've had such a long meeting for our first one. All right. Okay, first up, we have comments for citizens. Seeing no citizens out there. Other than our staff. Reporter, anyway. We will move on. We have an activity report for our water department in our packet. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
We have any water freezes or anything like that on the past?
We haven't had any, just a few meters. A lot of times that's just because meter lid didn't get put back on. Just a few little things like that. A couple of them probably were because meter jar needed some adjustment. We've been trying to get all those we can to insulate them, but
Okay.
pretty good shape really.
All right. Thanks.
Oh, I have a couple questions. I see you met with farmers on the contract renewal. I assume there's no major issues going forward.
No, I think everything went really smooth. We kind of got their input and they know what we're looking at this year and kind of where we're at next year as far as what we're going to try to do.
You took a one-day class on irrigation testing, sampling requirements.
Well, the very next day after that, I had to go to Macon. It's just a class that they're putting on because there's so many towns trying to get on to give the benefits of going to discharge or no discharge, the pros and cons of both, and what would be required of both. So it's a good class.
So it wasn't a matter of us doing sampling of the irrigation water or?
No, it's just a matter of knowing what we're gonna have to and probably what the limits are gonna drop to. So there was full class. There was about 60 people there.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
I'm gonna try next week to dig over Chance Company with a 12-inch valve to be inserted that we've been working on for about 6 months now. They had to go through a whole new company because the other people just couldn't seem to get the right clamp. So they got another company now and we're gonna try to dig. I have to give them an EOD, which is gonna be the same thing, that they want verification before they order. Probably within a week after that, we'll be able to get them up here and get that done. Which
They're gonna install it?
they're gonna do the insert, yes.
Okay.
And I thought we were gonna need it a little quicker with that leaky Chance Company the other day, but it was on their side, so
All right.
that's all I've got.
All right.
Thank you.
The cost isn't gonna go up though, as I understand, for the.
I think it was like $200.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing. I guess there is one other, our main meter at Chance Company, the low side's compound meters. You have a low side and a high side. The low side is quit working. And in order to do it, that's a one-piece meter head, both dials are in the same meter head. I contacted them and first thought we were gonna have to put a new meter in. They did find a replacement head, so we're looking at about $1,500 on that, and it should be here next week. So,
When we started this project, we were worrying it might get cold soon.
yeah.
Yeah, it might be warm by
Yeah,
then.
we- the delay avoided all the cold weather.
No.
Okay,
The company that does our Midwest Meter came in, did a course on our new handheld and such, and I started from a point of knowing virtually nothing. I thought they did a nice job, and I think Mike and his crew, I thought it was valuable to them, but I thought if I left there knowing more, then he must have been a pretty good teacher.
For this kind of weather, it's really handy having that. I don't have to open the meter jars right now. I can drive by and get the readings, which keeps that cold air from getting in there.
Yeah.
With the radios working like they are, it's not a problem. It's been really helpful. We're able to, it's a lot better to take out and program the new radios than taking a laptop and trying to keep it and handle it. So
Do you have it with you?
it's actually inside City Hall there,
Oh, okay.
back there. But
Okay.
it looks like it's gonna be really good.
Well, maybe next month you can bring it with you.
I can do that.
Show it to us.
sounds good.
Actually, yeah, not promised, it's not over promised, because he had it on this display, and I'm not sure he'd make it work that way.
All right, now we have budget discussion for the water.
Well, I handed out I emailed out and I handed out a packet of about 92 pages, which is the enterprise funds. The items, the capital items haven't changed. For water, on page 239, there's a request, I think I have it at $45,000, that's a little high for the valve insertion tool. Everything that we have discussed before, there's nothing new. So, there's nothing that we're looking at that we hadn't already discussed. There is a budget, we've been looking at the possibility of needing to work on the filters. There's some money available in there if we need to do that, but that's still so up in the air. And
I'm gonna try to set a meeting up with DNR probably towards the end of this month, whether we kind of get into the right temperature that will be more stable with the plant rather than this up and down that we're having. And when I get them up here, we can kind of work the filters over and see how the process is going with what they're wanting to do. I know what we're looking at from there.
page 230, did I say 259, 230?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on the water budget?
No, I did want to say that during our early discussions, we were talking about a 37-cent an hour raise, and it doesn't bust anybody's budget. It is, we can get it in, and this is not something we do every year, but it was the request of the union, and so next year we probably look more at it works out to about a 2.5% raise actually overall. Next year we probably wouldn't want to do that as a subsequent year, because the guys in this room are the ones who don't get as much of a raise in that case, and you need to make sure that there's enough. I mean, I think it's, we've had some increases in healthcare costs for those people who have spouses, but other than that, those costs are eaten by the city. So it's good to do a little bit of both. I think that's a good strategy, and that's the reason I brought it to you. And I think it's gonna. I think it'll make it's good. I think it's a fair pay increase offered by the city.
All right. Next up is sewer.
We did a little slip lining this year, and there's $15,000 in there for additional slip lining next year. We do have enough room that we could add a little more if we had to. We also have some money in there on page 2, that's on page 259. On 271, there, we put in money for, which is new since the last time we discussed capital items. Trying to switch between pages here. The land application, after the, one thing we came up with after the discussion with the farmers was, I think I mentioned this at the meeting, the Board of Aldermen meeting, we may need to increase replacement for tires. Now that's a high number. That we've looked at some, Mike's gone out and looked at some other options. The farmers are amenable to the idea of smaller tires, possibly not, I think we're using 8-ply right now, but 16.
They wanted to stay with the same ply tire, just go with a smaller, like 2-inch smaller tire.
And I think you brought up the point about steel tires. I don't think that, I think that right now the cost of those are too high to transition. I think Landon, I think you brought that up. So I think right now the plan would be to go with a slightly smaller tire. That $15,000 was based on getting the larger tire. So that would be, that's kind of a worst case scenario. We don't have, we shouldn't have to purchase any more. I think we got a good inventory of pivots and everything.
The gear drives, the motors and everything should be, I've got extra, they've still got some on hand. Everybody has 2 tires right now to get them through in case something, and they could borrow amongst each other if they needed to.
And there is, Lynn has set up sort of a reserve of about $43,000, which should be intact next year. So if something does go massively haywire, we have, that would cover a lot of.
On those tires, is it gonna have to be get a new rim for those too, or are they gonna fit on the same rim?
When we buy them, they actually are sending them completely mounted.
Oh, okay.
It's-
So with those drive tires, does that make any difference in the mechanism?
No, they said the size won't affect anything. And they said they could even be mismatched, one of the large ones and the other.
On the same
Is it
tower, yeah.
Yeah.
Tower, thanks.
But each tire would have to be the same one.
No, they said it really doesn't matter because there's so much play in the ground that it, when it's going across, it really doesn't affect that.
And they're like 15 feet apart.
They're quite a ways apart.
I figured if you had small tires here, big tires here, this would move faster and this would lag behind.
That kind of happens in general, and there's a system that controls that, and so the power speeds up, and that, so the ones on the end will stay where they need to be, hit the tripwire and stops it, and it waits, and then when it catches up, and so they're, each one's constantly turning on and off.
The old tires, if we kept getting the old tires, a new one is about $650. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah. So I think he found this new one. I think Mike said it was about 400.
Yeah, it was almost $200 difference.
Okay. So this should easily cover it.
Okay,
Alright.
sounds good.
And then the items the capital, there are no other changes to capital items that we talked about before.
Okay.
I
All right, any other under water and sewer?
If you're looking at the very first pages, you'll notice that it's very similar to the previous year in terms of the balances. So I'm confident that we're going to be. It does show us spending reserve, but every year we budget that just in case, and we don't use it. Does that make sense?
We budget conservatively.
Right. And in the electric fund, for example, we have about $700,000 depreciation amount. And, but you add that back because, you know, in the private sector, you write that off as taxes. We don't have to pay taxes, so it's important to know how much we should be putting into capital so that you know that your substations are aging.
Right.
But we're in good shape.
That's good. Thank you.
All right. Public Works activity report is in our packet. Anybody have any questions or comments?
We did get, sorry, activity report. Quiet.
Hearing none. Good job on the streets.
Thank you.
We'll move on to streets.
We've already approved the street improvement package for this year, so that, and I'm gonna bring with the general fund, we'll have the discussion. We have a request for a front loader, a dump truck, a fire truck, and leaving something out. Go ahead and write it down. The police car is different. It's like 16,000. That's actually, one police car. That's not a big deal. These larger pieces of equipment are going to be hard. Tomorrow I'm going to meet, actually, I don't want to get too far off the streets, but tomorrow I'm going to talk to a representative from Home Bank about the possibility of pursuing a lease purchase or straight loan for purchasing a mini pumper for the fire station. So we'll have some options. And what am I leaving out? There's another. Maybe that's it.
Loader and dump truck and mini pumper.
Yeah.
So you're talking about that one day.
Okay. Well, and then we've got the storm sewer projects,
Right.
which
Yeah.
coming up too. So there's I don't think we can do all of those. I think that we're going to have to cut this and buying a fire truck over a period of 5 to 7 years is going to be a long-term commitment. It's kind of redundant, but it means that there are certain things that we can't buy for a number of years in a row. However, we also have very old equipment, and talking to Denny, I'm getting off the topic of streets then, so we'll get to that one.
Okay.
So yeah, the street, I believe that we'll be able to the street project approved by the city. I think we'll be able to do that, maybe even add a little bit more. So.
How are we looking on salt and?
We're good.
We are going to have to rebuild our salt shed, so just the back end of it has just died. It's just over the years. It's
30 years plus years of salt in it is just finally eating it up, and it's bowing and starting to collapse. So we're gonna have to rebuild it.
So we looked at the possibility of buying more salt before the end of the year, but we really don't want to have a whole truckload of salt, to toss around while we're building the shed around it. So. An April snow would be really bad.
No, we've got enough to get through a couple more small ones. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
All right. So, next up, streets? Anything? Or was that streets we were talking about?
Nothing else.
Okay. Then we'll go to sanitation.
Not buying any new trucks.
People are still throwing stuff away.
Yeah.
Lots of it.
Yeah. I think that the only budgetary discussion, looks like, I think projecting the amount of trash that's going to get thrown away next year, which is always a guess, assuming they increase, that I think the dollar increase is going to be enough. I don't see any concern there. I think the 1725, and we really are at the top of the market there. The next, if that's not enough, the next discussion would be looking at going out for an RFP or something.
Next up, storm sewer fiscal 2016 projects.
Right. And I need to send you these, the bids, but we got the bid, Phil got the bids back. Actually, when he came into my office on last Monday, I had not opened the email, but I had the email that came in that day. The Railroad Street linings are both over $150,000, so they're not gonna fit. Next year, we may have to look at funding options, like even borrowing money to take care of those. The Jefferson Street lining, underneath Jefferson Street is $31,700.
Type 5%.
They're both corrugated metal pipe.
Yeah.
What
The
size?
size? It's,
3 foot?
it's an oval shape, and I can't remember what size they're, both of them two different sizes.
I've got it open here, and I'm just trying to remember.
Like 3 by 5 or something, I mean, it was.
So it'd be about a 4 foot equivalent.
Yeah, it's good sized pipes. They're about 40 foot, I think. The one was, and the other one's closer to 60 foot.
Yeah, I've got the two I don't want to open. The one on the. Yeah. All right.
But take in mind these, whether they're oval or.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those are easy. I mean, the nice thing about it, we don't have to shut the street down, we don't tear it out. They can pull out, there's actually places on both sides, they can pull up and do it and not interrupt the traffic or the block traffic for days or anything, so. That was the only reason I was looking at it as possible option, to see if that, if that's something we could do. That would give us a demonstration of the product before we tried it over here on that 84-inch pipe under railroad.
Okay.
Yeah. 36 by 72. And then the one on the No Chance project, that one is 36,800, and the size of that pipe is that one is 28 inches by 42 inches.
Yeah, that was a little smaller, too. It's only drained on one side.
For just for a comparison, what would it cost to tear the street out and put some new pipe in and all that?
I'd have to get some numbers.
As much as anything, it's the inconvenience of.
That was, and the other thing, the one on, Panhandle's pipeline is right there near it. And Lynn told me, he said, wasn't really sure exactly where they ran. They were right there close to it. That was the one reason I was looking at possibly lining at least that one.
Right.
So you're gonna pay Panhandle to have an inspector out there regardless. And
Yeah.
then if you do any damage, you're really gonna pay
Oh,
Panhandle.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Buy a line of natural gas and a real quick current.
Yes.
So then remember, the Mile Street Ditch project's about $35,000. Midland GIS about 33. So when we come back together next week, I'll have a better idea of exactly how much money we have left over, and that's. I would like to have had it ready tonight. I won't go into details, but I lost a little bit of my work because of some. I've been trying to set up a system where I can work from home, and it hasn't worked yet. So I'm working with the IT company to make that work. So. But I think we can afford basically one of those. Now, if in each case, there's a $2,500 mobilization on all those projects. If we could avoid a $2,500 cost, it is possible. Although we probably have to give up. You either have to delay the fire truck for a year, spend some reserves or put the dump truck off for a year. If we could save the $2,500 by doing both Jefferson Street and Gano Chance, there's a mobilization fee for each one. I would hope that we could, and I haven't talked to them about that yet.
Is anybody, in another city close by getting some of that same type of work done, or? Is it still gonna be that mobilization fee?
From city to city, I can't imagine there wouldn't be another mobilization.
I mean, they're gonna be, they'll schedule it, so if they've got any work near it, I'm sure they're gonna line it up, but it's something when you come home, they have to set everything up,
Okay.
clean it one day, then they line it, and then it's a several day process, so.
Those two projects are,
Huge.
right next to each other, the Gano
Yeah.
Chance and Ramsey, or Jefferson Street, actually.
All right.
They're bids.
All right, any other under public works? Hearing none, we will move on to the election department.
Page 2.
We have an activity report in our packet. Does anybody have any questions or comments? No outages with the storms recently? Been nice local.
Very smooth, yes.
All right. Next up, accepting bid for trailer.
Got a bid tab there. We sent out a request to 3 different companies. One did not respond, and we've got a couple of prices back. Maxwell's put theirs up between black and white. We requested a white trailer just to match all the white vehicles and safety factor involved there. Darren is a local dealer for Doolittle trailers, and so he has got the best price there at $51.03. That's a 18-foot total, 16-foot tilt, a hydraulic dampener style. We originally, last year, when I asked for some budget money to put in there, I was just considering at that time just a standard trailer like we have with the short dovetail and the ramps. But just obviously seeing the popularity of those trailers, and they are very convenient. And I think also they just, it's less stressful on the truck itself when you're loading it, and very much so I think the safety factor of the tracks on the ramps, constantly slipping, the loading of the tilt trailers is just, for obvious reasons, it's better and safer.
So are those, the other trailers for Maxwell, are they also the 18-foot trailer?
They are actually, we only requested a 16-foot total. It just so happens that in that particular model, the little shortest one they make is the 18-foot.
What's the way?
That's, yeah, so,
Okay.
so that's the reason why he did a 16 tilt, and there's 2 feet up the front that's stationary. And so that's why it's 2 feet longer, and I think we don't want to get too long, obviously, in Centralia, but I think we can deal with an 18-foot just fine getting around. So it's a little above the budget, but I think the budget is not so tight, and just, to me, the convenience and safety factor. Not, our old trailer is 15 years old. I would not see any reason to get any less than that out of this trailer. And then I would plan on selling the existing skid steer trailer. We wouldn't need to keep it, so we would just probably do a sealed bid thing, advertise it in the paper, and so we should be able to sell it for a reasonable amount, I would think.
You can get $1,103, you're back in budget.
And I think that might be pretty reasonable we could possibly see that.
Okay. All right, you want to do this tonight?
Yes, please.
Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the bid from Darren Adams for $5,103 for an 18-foot dual trailer.
All right, so we got 3 seconds on that.
closes.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Budget discussion for electric department.
Well, the most exciting thing is that I have $165,000 in for the mooring, which I think should cover it. I think that was our last bid. That would be and then of course that is not the rest of the project, which is the conduit and all that sort of stuff that would come in the 2017 budget.
Okay.
So I believe this covers all the.
This will cover, should hopefully even cover the conduit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Meaning the
Yes.
casing with the conduit in the casing. And then, phase in over 1 or 2 more years doing the actual wiring through the conduit and switches and poles and things like that at each end where it comes up out of the ground.
All right.
The picture, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. Right now I'm budgeting a $60,000 transfer to the general fund, $35,000 to cemetery again. When we come to next week's discussion, that is something that we could look at. Within reason, but we have transferred 2 years ago. We did $80,000 to the general fund, but there was no transfer to the cemetery fund. So that's going to be those. Even though that is we'll make that decision when Mark's not here to defend himself. No, that is a. We also, I should say that we also, in addition, budgeted $50,000 for repairs to this building, which in the budget was the water and light building. That was under 3133. It would be page 283 on the handout today. The actual cost of that's going to be about $87,000. We can't do that every year, but we might be able to, if next year we want to, it's a possibility that we could transfer more than $95,000 out of electric, since we won't be spending $87,000 on building improvements, but but not much more, because we also have that large project for the boring. So we aren't buying a truck, so.
What's the extent of the work that we have scheduled on this building?
It's done. It's done.
That was.
Yeah, that was, but we budgeted that in electric.
And that's the one that we overshot by so much.
Undershot, yeah.
Well, we kind of overshot the budget.
Yeah, the architect's estimate was low,
Right.
about 60% low.
Okay.
So,
All right, so we talked about the boring for the electric conduit. Any other under electric department?
Actually, the update I was going to give you is that the permits have been applied for, and we've got a note back from Norfolk Southern that they know that we've applied for them and that they are considering them.
Nice.
And they've assigned a docket number or whatever you want to call it to that. And Kansas City Southern has them as well, but they haven't given us a number for the.
And at some point, they will tell us that they probably won't allow us to do this if we put forth sufficient funds.
Yes, that's.
Yes. Okay, well, anything else under electric? Any other? Any as may arise? Motion to adjourn? Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We already